Okay, so this is a short treat for everybody, or maybe just for me, since it's a belated birthday celebration. But I do want to get through business first, which means I've got some points that I want to tick through about Blake Lively and where we're at right now, and some things that I've been thinking about for the past week. Well, some of it I've been thinking about since this whole thing started. But things I've been thinking about for the past week. So I'm gonna get through that, and then I have some stuff to say about Marilyn Manson, and let me say too, like I know for a number, not all, or not even maybe most, but for a number of my Justin Baldoni supporter fans who don't know anything about the Manson case or don't feel educated about it and don't particularly care about it. I totally get that, but it's really interesting to see what's going on with him and the kind of comeback that he is finally starting to have. And there's been so many interesting developments and continue to be. So I do want to talk about that. And then I'm going to give you some personal updates. Being my birthday, my belated birthday. My birthday was September 2nd. So what? Yesterday. Or now day before, right? Since it's so late, we're into the next day, late or early, depending on your perspective, right? For me, it's late. Maybe for some of you, it's early. I will be going to bed after this, but some personal updates, and then I will take some questions. And if there are any super chats, read them and talk about them. So I'll definitely save 5 minutes at the end for that. But we'll probably go like 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how I feel. So Blake Lively's stuff. I see that she and Perez Hilton continue to fight it out in court, and I'm totally not up on that, educated about the specifics of it or anything like that. And by the way, hello to those of you who are joining me. We're at 24, but it is dead of night, middle of the night, and so these are pretty typical numbers here, but people will be watching it in the morning. The Perez Hilton thing, my overall sort of larger view of all of this is that it is fucking fascinating. I know it's hell for Baldoni. I know it's hell for him and for Steve Sarowitz and Wayfarer and Jamie Heath. So I don't want to make light of that. But it is fucking fascinating. Oh, and also, I know that it's hell for the content creators who are being put through the ringer by Blake Lively, like Perez Hilton and Andy Signore. And then even the people where she's withdrawn the subpoenas, they still went through a lot of anxiety and people had to hire lawyers and all of that, right? It was a major life disruption. And that's one of the things that I've really appreciated, for example, about Ashley's coverage, and I'll try to link to her below after this. But I've not talked about her much on this program, but one of the things that she's talked about a lot is how that subpoena really disrupted her life. And she's got like a whole thing going with her, I guess her husband or family, of like animals, animal rescue or a farm or something. I don't know. And she's, and she, like a number of content creators that were subpoenaed, are saying, this is a huge life disruption. For what? For reporting honestly on this huge scam that this woman is trying to run, and the predatory behavior that she has exhibited toward multiple people. What's the problem here? So, and I don't want to make light of it, but I just want to say it's fucking fascinating to see the extent that a woman, or perhaps a couple, I guess, if we're saying that, if we're allocating, assigning responsibility equally to Ryan Reynolds, still don't know what all is going on there, right? But it is fucking fascinating to see a woman who is so resistant to the idea that she might be just genuinely disliked by people, who is so resistant to the idea that the hatred for her online and the quote unquote harassment that she feels like she was getting, that this was organic. This was not the result of some masterminded plan by Jed Wallace or Jen Abel and Melissa Nathan or anyone on Wayfarer and Baldoni's side. It just wasn't. That's not to say that they didn't try to take some action, but it was insignificant and unnecessary, as it turns out, because this dislike for Blake Lively was organic and it was based on her own behavior. And so I know that there are two main prongs, or I guess three main prongs to Blake Lively's argument that she's making, that she's not just in court, but that she's trying to make to the public. The first prong is that she was sexually harassed by Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath, and that Wayfarer was, behaved in a toxic, negligent manner, what have you, right? And this is just contradicted by so many of the facts and so many of the things that have been revealed over time. And I don't want to get into that right now. That's for a later time. But you all know, a lot of you know what I'm talking about. I will give two examples. One example is in her initial complaint and even in her lawsuit, her representation of that dance scene when she and Baldoni were filming a dancing scene, and it was a 10-minute scene for It Ends With Us. And she made several allegations, claims that he harassed her in various ways. When you actually watch that video, lo and behold, the video was released, and you see that her story, her narrative left out a ton of context, distorted things, in some cases just flat out lied. And so that's one example. Another example is trying to pretend that she, Blake Lively, was really shy about breastfeeding and really self-conscious about it, and felt really self-conscious when these men were around and when they would want to come into her dressing room and talk about, because again, Jamie Heath was the producer on the show, was on the movie as well, and of course Justin Baldoni. She made it sound like it was this horrific sexual harassment, that they were wanting to come into her dressing room and talk with her about stuff while she was breastfeeding. And it turns out, of course, these text messages that we see and we've seen for months, that she was the one who was the most blasé and casual about the whole breastfeeding thing, that not only did she have no embarrassment about it, but that at one point, when Baldoni says he needs to talk to her about something, or they need to go over something, she says, "Yeah, come on in. I'm just pumping. I'm just pumping." So there were so many things, and as you know, if you follow this, there's so many other things, right, where we know that she misrepresented or flat out lied. But that is the first prong of her argument, is that there was this harassment that occurred and this toxic behavior, and that prong two, that Baldoni and Wayfarer were so worried that she was going to blow the whistle on this horrible harassment, that they preemptively started this smear campaign against her. And this smear campaign is what is responsible for all of the negativity toward her, and all of the bad PR, and all of the bad social media coverage, and ultimately for the failure of, for example, her Blake Brown hair care line. Certainly wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that the products just apparently, if you look at the reviews, are not good, or with the fact that the founder and face of the products insists on going around with frizzy hair for some inexplicable reason. I tried to find this, I tried to pull it up, and I couldn't find it, but some of you know what I'm talking about. There was recently a video that came out, or that someone was commenting on TikTok, where we see Blake Lively doing a kind of an exhibition with her Blake Brown hair products, and she's doing it on a model. And so she's got, I think, like hairspray or something, right? And the model starts out with flawless hair, absolutely flawless hair. And Blake Lively comes in there and she starts, of course, spraying the hairspray everywhere, but then she starts intentionally frizzing the hair, so that actually by the end of this promotional video, the model's hair is frizzed and kind of weird looking. She's got some kind of a weird fixation on the idea that frizzy hair is like the next big thing or something. I don't know. It's very odd. No one else seems to be picking up this trend. Anyway, the point is, she believes she is wedded to the idea that this was not organic. And then prong three, of course, is the idea that Justin Baldoni, in filing his lawsuit, or in trying to defend himself now, and Wayfarer and Steve Sarowitz and Jamie Heath, and trying to defend themselves now, that they're retaliating against her, right? And so anyway, I just think, as I said, that it's fucking fascinating to see the lengths that a woman will go to, a person will go to maintain their facade of denial about reality, and about, in this case, the reality that people just organically did not like her. And secondly, that she is the one who dug this hole that she's in now. Because what got people to start talking? Well, the fact that Baldoni was not at his own premiere, that they weren't doing interviews together, that there was unfollowing going on. I mean, people are really tuned in. Some people are really tuned into this. And Blake should have known, as Baldoni seemed to, that this was going to cause problems and people were going to talk about it. And so she just cannot accept that this is organic. And so she has to wage this entire campaign, is this bizarre, in a psychoanalytic sense, this bizarre campaign to keep that wall up. And she's going to go to lengths of destroying people, trying to destroy people, and, destroying herself and her image even more. It's really fascinating. But I wanted to say something that has been bothering me in particular as I look at some of the coverage on Twitter, and particularly, like, we laugh about him, and I know he doesn't have much of a following, but like the ex-patriarch guy, who I don't think is a paid shill. I know some people think that. I really do think that he believes what he's preaching, so to speak. But it's so interesting to see feminists, so-called feminists, who have been for years preaching that men need to open up, that men have these walls, that men don't want to talk about their problems with things like consent and porn, et cetera, et cetera. It's the feminists, who have been, and not only the feminists, but a lot of these guys like ex-patriarch, who supposedly are interested in men's issues from a leftist perspective. These are the people that have been for years bemoaning the fact that men feel like they can't open up, they can't speak honestly, they can't be emotional, they have to maintain these walls, et cetera, and they won't come to the table and talk with women about serious issues like sexual assault and what's going on in men's minds and the thorniness of consent. Men won't talk about it. They won't come to the table and talk about it. Well, then, what seems to have happened is that you had guys working on a film. I'm talking about Baldoni and Heath and some of these others from Wayfair, I assume. You had these guys who were producing and directing and financially supporting a film that was focused on these issues: gender and sexual assault and consent and trauma and abuse and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it was a good movie. No offense. Sorry, I was going to say Baldoni, but I guess since Blake took over the thing, I'm not sorry to say. I didn't like it, and I thought it kind of sucked, but it was going right for all these issues. And so what you had then was a situation where, of course, if the producers and the director wanted to do a good job with this thing and were really interested in it, genuinely interested in it, of course, there are going to be conversations about things related to sexuality and consent and sexual assault and porn. I mean, all of these things are in the film, or touched on or discussed in the film. So it's really, I guess this is the point that I'm making, is that it's ironic and it's also sad that left-leaning feminists, for lack of a better term, who normally seem to be the ones who are encouraging men to speak openly and let down the walls and come to the table and so forth. Well, you have these men who do this with the best of intentions. Blake Lively, even if you read her complaint and her lawsuit as factual, as not, which I don't believe, but is not exaggerating, is telling the truth. Like, what it still comes across is that you have these guys who were just kind of like awkwardly, thinking that they could be like honest about their vision and the film and the themes and all of that, and really, get in there with it. But instead, you have people like ex-patriarch and some of these others who are now saying that men need to wall up. They need to shut up. That men talking about issues of consent or porn or sharing painful stories from their past or insecurities that they have, this makes them predators. So, men, I want you to understand now the message that these feminists are sending to you. If you do speak openly about these things, if you do come to the table, so to speak, to reckon with issues of sexual assault and gender expectations, et cetera, if you do that, you're going to be considered a predator and a pervert. Because that is what Blake Lively's complaint is trying to tell us. So it's really annoying and it's really unfortunate. And it's also, I say like kind of ironically funny to see these people just completely abandoning I think, a whole set of values that they have been espousing about masculinity and gender relations for a while. All in the service of making it seem that Blake Lively was suffering sexual harassment on the film, and these were predators. It's crazy. And so that's one thing that I've been thinking about is just just how ironic and how crazy and what a complete flip-flop that is. So, I don't know, but Blake is, she has created this entire psychodrama around her, this entire melodrama, and she is stuck in it even though she got a good ruling from Judge Lyman. I know, and there was with the dismissal of Baldoni's main claims and all of that, and I know sometimes she gets some good PR and whatever, but people just aren't buying it, and you can see it everywhere in comments. People on these stories and videos and so forth, people just aren't buying it. And so what's going to happen is you're going to continue to have more and more stuff coming out leading up to this trial. And if there actually is a trial, if they really don't settle, I just think it's going to, the truth about her as it comes out and is revealed even more, and the kind of toxicity that she was engaged in on that set, I think it's going to be really, really bad for her. It's going to look really bad. So I don't know. That's what I've been thinking about. And I've also been thinking, for some reason, strangely, I don't know why this occurred to me. I've been thinking a bit about The Color Purple, that old Alice Walker novel, and the Whoopi Goldberg Oprah film. I haven't seen the most recent one, but I don't know why. And maybe it's associated in my mind with Blake Lively because, she's such a lover of Africa, all things African American, right? But there's a great scene in that movie where this woman played by Whoopi Goldberg, who has been abused by her husband, Danny Glover. She was married off to at like age 14. This is about like old time, like sharecroppers, early 20th century. Whoopi Goldberg has been abused by this dude her entire life, and she's had enough, and she finally finds the courage to stand up to him. And if you watch the scene, it's really interesting. I don't know why, but it just works. But she does this thing out of nowhere. They're arguing, and he tells her in front of a bunch of people that you're just an ugly old whatever. You're never going to amount to anything, whatever. And she does this thing. She throws a curse on him, and you can see her like with Whoopi Goldberg with even the hand motions, and she sort of like does this to the camera to him. And she does this, and she says that she curses him, and she says, "Until you make things right for me, everything you touch is gonna fail. Nothing you touch is gonna succeed." And I just have this feeling deep down that the way that Blake Lively is persisting in this egregious behavior, this malevolent behavior, and really has been and continues to try to destroy innocent people. I just don't think that ultimately the universe is going to let that get a pass. And so I don't know what's going to end up happening legally, whether they're going to settle or not. And I have to think that a jury trial, just like it was for Johnny Depp, is going to be favorable to Justin Baldoni. But I mean, who absolutely knows? But I just have to think that Blake Lively, she's building up not only so much karma, but this wall, bad karma, but this wall of denial that she is building up. It just cannot be sustained for the rest of someone's life without doing major damage. Like sooner or later, that wall is going to crumble or something's going to shatter it. And I just really don't think, I know she's got some projects in the pipeline and stuff, but I just have this feeling, I don't know, maybe it sounds crazy, but I just have this feeling, this intuition that that nothing she does is going to be successful really until she somehow comes to terms with this or reckons with this and what she's done here. I don't know. I just have that feeling there. It's too much of a provocation to the universe, the way that she's been behaving. I don't know. I know I'm sounding like mystical or whatever. It's almost 4 a.m, but that's what I think. Now, Marilyn Manson, he has been doing all of these sold out concerts, big crowds. He had 200,000 people show up. I talked about this the other day. 200,000 people show up to see him at a concert in Mexico. And this was after the governor of the state that he was performing in had to come out and defend him and say, I invited Marilyn Manson, and I did because of art, for art, and also for justice. That's what he said, governor of Mexico. And so you had 200,000 people show up for him, but he just recently has been, I noticed, showcased on Eddie Trunk's Instagram page, and Eddie Trunk's been talking about him, who's Eddie Trunk, who's a big figure in the rock world and has been doing this, covering it forever, doing a major radio show about it, right? And online stuff. And he's been covering I See the Comeback heavily. And then you had Alice Cooper. There's a video going around online of Alice Cooper cheering Manson on from behind the stage. You've got the really incredible popularity of the song or the collaboration that he did with and I just blanked on their name, Ronnie Radke. But what's the group? Can't believe I just blanked on it. So I'll look it up. But the song that he did with them, it's gotten tons and tons of views on YouTube, and it's I think it's like climbed a bunch of charts, and it's being played a lot, like when Radke goes on tour. Falling in Reverse, that's the name. Sorry, I just blanked on it. It's late. It's 4 a.m. Yeah, this Falling in Reverse song. You can look up the video, but this is a really this is a band that has a huge following and is really considered hip and edgy and everything, right? So my point is just that he's doing really, really well. He was the main one reported on at Ozzy Osbourne's funeral. I saw that was a huge thing. Front page, first story, Daily Mail, and of all the celebrities that attended his funeral, Manson and Lindsay, who I put on this thumbnail, Lindsay, his wife, they were front and center there. So just a lot of cool things, a lot of recognition coming his way. And it's nice to see PR that is not centered on or not exclusively centered on the allegations against him or some of these people that are still out there spreading lies and still trying to make noise, right? So anyway, I think I think it's cool. And again, that 200,000 people there in Mexico. It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, let me see. I did see a super chat. Let's see what's in the pipeline here. The redneck hipster, I like your name. Happy belated, short stream or not, it's a treat all the same. Well, thank you. It is very late. But Unknown says, I'm upset Ozzy died. Yeah, it was unexpected too, I guess. I mean, I know he had Parkinson's, he was in bad health, but he just did that concert, right? Becca says, happy birthday, Kurt. Sending you much wishes from Sydney, Australia. Thank you. So I just, so personal stuff or whatever, we're in the middle of, or we're beginning a lateral move, but it's going to take some time. So it's not going to be an immediate thing. But things are going okay in my personal life, have stabilized, and which is good. And what else? There was something I wanted to mention. Oh, I know what this. I know what it is. It's funny. I don't want to say this person's name because I don't want to. God knows I don't want to antagonize them anymore. But some random person who was mentioned for like 6 seconds by one of my guests that I did on that 5-hour live stream that I did, like 2 months ago. Remember where I did that 5-hour live stream and I had all those guests? Well, there was someone who was mentioned just in passing, wasn't even the topic of what we're talking about, was mentioned for like 5 seconds and didn't like the way that he was mentioned, not by me again, but by a guest. And so this person took it upon themselves to send me through a process server, have a lawyer supposedly draft up a demand letter that I remove this, and hired a process server to send it to me. Like all of this trouble, speaking of Blake Lively and someone who is doing excessive and ridiculous things in order to uphold this fake image of herself that she's clinging to, that I really am likable. Talk about crazy. Someone who literally cannot abide 5 seconds of some guest saying something in passing that almost no one's gonna even see because I don't have that many people watching my stuff, and you're gonna go to all that trouble to send me a demand letter. Anyway, but here's what's funny, is that when I realized that it was a demand letter and it was coming from it was official, right? It was coming through a process server, an attorney, and all of that. Do you know what I thought? And this is why I'm pissed at this person. I thought that Blake Lively was sending me something. Here's my subpoena, even though it wouldn't make sense because I know that that everybody else was subpoenaed online, right? Through email or whatever, or Google. It's like, yes. So then when I realized that it was just this insignificant nutcase, I was like, come on, dude. Oh man, oh man, oh man. So anyway, but I do want to thank my supporters, all of you and followers and viewers, and no matter how long you've been around, thank you for watching my stuff and for engaging with the content. And of course, there are a few people who have been cheering me on, in addition to my mods, right? AJ and Vanessa and Rebel Bird and Laura B. But also a few people that have been cheering me on for a long time. And some people don't want to be mentioned, but Lisa, you know who you are. And also, I want to thank, well, he doesn't want to be mentioned, so I won't say it. It's Marilyn Manson. No, I'm joking. No. But Lisa and both Lisas actually, and the group chat also that I'm on with one of those Lisas, which is always entertaining and very supportive. And then also someone who just messaged me earlier and I haven't gotten back to, but there is an author named Paul Sandy, and y'all should look him up. He writes really great novels. And his name is Paul Sandy, Sande, and he messaged me today, and he's been really supportive and one of my main fans and supporters and followers over the years. So, and there's certainly a number of others and people who didn't want to be mentioned, and just mostly like all of you. It's been really something to get to the year that I'm at, 45, and say to myself, well, it's been crazy at times, but at least I'm to this age and I'm doing something that I find interesting and on some level fulfilling, and engaging with people in a way that hopefully most of the time you find entertaining or helpful. So anyway, appreciate y'all. Taylor Swift. Someone wanted me to follow up on a comment that I made online about Taylor Swift, because I said online on Twitter basically something to the effect of, well, actually, I don't think that she's that great of a person. And I mentioned the fact that she has said some shitty things about some of her exes who are clearly identifiable. Like when she talks about, for instance, Matt Healy and his Jehovah's Witness suit, like there's only one guy that she's dated who his trademark is the Jehovah's Witness looking suit, right? So she writes a song about him and then proceeds to out him for supposedly secretly trying to cop pills, I guess painkillers, because he used to be an opioid addict, pills from a friend of a friend. Or, dragging Joe Alwyn for being such a downer, and he's so depressed all the time and he just focuses on his depression and all that. Like, I just feel like there've got to be other things that she can talk about, write about. So yeah, I don't think that's a good person. I think it's petty. I'm sure she feels like there's some noble purpose for her doing that, but she writes those songs or she signs off on them, and it's just really, really, I think, petty and small. And these guys don't talk about her, right? They keep their mouths shut. So to me, that's kind of a bad sign. I watched about a third of that interview that she and Travis Kelce did with Jason Kelce on their New Heights podcast. And look, yeah, she comes across nice. She seems nice, but y'all, for a performer coming across nice in an interview, it's not difficult. Anybody can come, especially when they're in a friendly environment and it's a friendly audience throwing softballs at them and pre-planned questions, and it's all you can see very neatly packaged. Like it's not hard to come across nice. But I'll tell you, and so I don't know. I don't know what I think about her and whether she's a good person or nice or whatever. The jury's still out on that. But I'll tell you one thing that did come across to me in that podcast. when she talks about her art, there's some depth there, and I think that's because she has spent her entire life thinking, and I'm not dissing this, but thinking primarily about her art and also talking with other artists and people collaborating with her and producers and conceptualizing and stuff. When she talks about her art, she sounds intelligent. When she talks about anything else, she sounds, dare I say, like stupid and shallow, and reminds me of like being like on the high school drill team and the conversations that I would hear girls around me having. And and it was and not only that, but she clearly thinks that the things that she's saying, everything that she's saying is fascinating. And look, I have to back up and say, but again, that's part of performing. It's the same, you've got to have confidence in yourself. You've got to seem like you're having fun. It's the same thing from my show, right? But what was interesting to me is how she would go on with the most sort of simple, stupid realizations about things or descriptions of things, even like repeating herself. I mean, repeating almost word for word at times. Like she started talking about, for instance, and this happened a lot. She started talking about baking bread and how much she loves to bake bread. And that's great. But she kept talking and kept talking and kept talking. And there was never any like real sort of like depth or variation to it or insights, or it was just like someone droning on and on about, yeah, wasn't those cupcakes were really good. Yeah. Yeah, I like making cupcakes. Yeah. I've been making cupcakes so much. I don't lately. I just don't know why. It's like when I'm on tour, I'm stressed out, and then when I come home, I just want to bake cupcakes. And I've been teaching Travis how to bake cupcakes. Yeah, yeah, she's so smart. She knows how to bake cupcakes. Yeah, I make cupcakes. She also interrupted him a lot, but then again, some couples just have that style. He seems totally glazed over. He's in some kind of love drug haze. I know it should be sweet, and maybe I'm just being a Grinch on this, but I don't know if he knows what the fuck he's getting into or what's going on. Anyway, so that was my impression. It's been 30 minutes. I appreciate y'all, and I'll be putting out oh, almost missed this. Jonna, if I'm saying it right. Thank you for the super sticker. I gotta go. It's late and I should try to go to sleep. I work tomorrow, but I did want to put out a little something. And like I said, I'm going to be cutting some stuff from this to make put together some short videos. But anyway, appreciate y'all. And yeah, happy belated birthday, I guess. And my links are below as always if you want to send me a little birthday gift, but it's not necessary. I'll talk to you later. Bye.